Does your marriage feel crowded? Hey there, I'm Sharon Pope. I help strong and successful women who are struggling in lonely and disconnected marriages get the confidence and clarity they need to either fix the struggles inside their marriage or be able to move forward without regret. If you like what you hear, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. So today we're talking about whether your marriage feels a little bit too crowded, which means, of course, we're talking about infidelity inside the marriage. Now, I think a lot of people assume that when there's been infidelity in a marriage, that the marriage is going to end. And that's not true. Most marriages actually do find their way through it, even if the partner knows about the affair or doesn't know about the affair. Most couples really do find their way through that. So what I see in my coaching practice is something along the lines of, and this is generalization, right? But just stay with me here, that women who've been cheated on in general want to see if they can find a way through the betrayal and the hurt that they've experienced. When men cheat, they're not actually very likely to leave their marriage because they're using the affair as a means to distract themselves and avoid the issues going on inside the marriage. So I don't think affairs happen in happy and connected marriages. So there's something broken in that relationship. And a husband will sometimes use, or a husband or a wife will sometimes use an affair to be able to avoid facing the issues inside the marriage and really getting clarity about that. But many times when men cheat, men don't leave. When women cheat, it's way more likely that they would leave as compared to a man. But it's probably about 60-40, and this is a guess, 60% might stay and about 40% would leave. So that's still more likely than a man that has cheated, but it's not a guaranteed that when there's been infidelity that the marriage is going to end. Now there's an important distinction, and it's the point of this conversation, to be honest, is that there's a really big difference between a one-time mistake or an incident that has happened over the course of a few months and something that has transpired or been consistent and continued over the course of years or decades, right? Now that can be someone cheating on their partner with lots of different people. It can also be someone cheating on their partner with one person over the course of many, many years. So there's a whole relationship there. It's not just a sexual thing. It's a relationship after you've been together for years and years. So when that is the case, women are not as forgiving. They're not necessarily willing to try to wade through all the muck of a long-term affair with someone. And it almost becomes a way of being inside the marriage. And so I want to share with you a story of a client. So she and her husband have been married for more than 30 years. They built a beautiful life together. They raised a great family, and now those kids are often on their own. And they faced a lot of life challenges, walking alongside one another throughout the course of 30 years. But she had gotten to the point where every time he would check his phone and he said it was work, she would wonder, is it really work? I bet it's not really work. When she would track his whereabouts, either by his phone or his car, and he would see that he was at a motel or at a specific person's address, boy, that would really be incredibly hurtful for her because she knew what was happening. She'd been in this for so long. She knew what was happening. And when she would find text messages or evidence of her husband expressing feelings to another woman, it just got to the point where this third person wasn't really a part of their marriage, but she most certainly was impacting that. And so the marriage just became what she called a little bit too crowded. And she didn't want to keep living like that anymore. You know, early on in their relationship, when she thought it was just a one-time mistake, or that he would change, or that maybe if I showed him enough of my pain or explained to him how this impacts me, that he would change his ways. The important thing to note here is it repetitive and consistent? And the thing is, in this particular situation, it was both. It was both repetitive and consistent. And their reaction had always been, she would get angry, of course. He would go into fight or flight and he would run away because he didn't want to face that. He certainly didn't want to answer questions. She would cry and she would complain and she would argue, but it had become a permanent way of being inside their relationship. And she knew that if it was ever going to change, she was going to have to be the one to interrupt it. So I just want to reiterate, marriages can come through affairs, and it's not always the outcome that you think it's going to be. So if there's been infidelity inside your marriage, I know that there can feel like there's a lot of shame associated with that. And whether it was you who had the infidelity or had the affair, or your partner was that one, I want you to know that there can be a way through it. And there's a great difference between a mistake and a way of being inside the marriage. But either way, you have to be able to come to terms with what does it mean for you. So if your marriage is feeling crowded and you want some help navigating all of that and figuring out what your best next step is, then I want you to go to clarityformymarriage.com. From there, you'll be able to take the next step forward to see if there's a fit for you and I to work together. If you like what you heard on this channel, I hope you'll subscribe. And if you want to know every time we post a new video, at the end of this video in the upper left corner, you can click notifications. Until next time, take really good care.